Alrighty, we're back. Welcome back to another Ohio State test review. Today we are talking about standard 8.EE.4. This is mostly scientific notation operations, and all that fun stuff with less of the number estimating and more of numbers in specific scientific notation. So numbers after the decimal instead of whole numbers, which is what we covered in 8.EE.4. So let's start with number one, and this is arguably, in my opinion, the hardest question on here. Mr. Miller presented his class the following equation: 7.5 times 10 to the 4 times p times 10 to the q equals 1.5 times 10 to the 8th. So here's two ways you could look at this. Okay, one, you could look at this as not even being in scientific notation. In no point does it say that p has to be in scientific notation. So knowing that 7.5, going on our calculator, 7.5 times 0.2 would give us 1.5. You could say that 0.2 is p. And you can find out that 7.5 times 0.2 is 1.5 by dividing 1.5 by 7.5 and getting 0.2. At that point, it's just about making the exponents work. So we have an exponent of 8 here and an exponent of 4 here, and we need to figure out what exponent we can put in for q. Okay, so remember here we're going to work with product rule. Everybody loves product rule. X to the m times x to the n equals x to the m plus n. So to find the difference between 8 and 4, we would do 8 minus 4. That means that q must be 4. Because if you put 4 in here for q, you would have 10 to the 4 times 10 to the 4, which would be 10 to the 4 plus 4, which is 10 to the 8th. So that's one way you could do it. Okay? So let's look at number 2. The current population of a city is 8.35 times 10 to the 5th people, and the city is expected to grow in population by approximately 1.6 times 10 to the 4 people next year. What is the expected population of the city next year? So it's expected to grow, and when we think grow, we think of adding. So there's two ways you could do this. You could either, first let's write what the equation is going to look like. You could either A, put this directly into your calculator. So parentheses 8.35 times 10 to the 5th plus 1.6 times 10 to the 4. Hit enter. What do we get? 851,000. And then you could put 851,000 into scientific notation. How do we do that? You put the decimal point next to the 8. You put the decimal point next to your farthest number to the left, because remember your leading number has to be between 1 and 9. That's one of our rules of scientific notation. And you count how many spaces are to the right of your new decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be 8.51 times 10 to the 5th, which is B. Or you could actually do the math if you want to do the math. So remember, when you're adding or subtracting numbers in scientific notation, your exponents need to match. So they need to be the same. So we need to change one of our exponents. I tend to change the smaller of the exponents because it's more likely that your final answer just happens to end up in scientific notation. So let's talk about how to do that. We talked a bit about LARS. during the course of the year where we said LARS stood for left add, right subtract. I apologize, there's a dog barking right outside my window. So if you move the decimal point to the left, you're going to add 1 to your exponent. If you move the decimal point to the right, you're going to subtract 1 from your exponent. So we're going to adjust this exponent of 4. We need to get it up to 5. How do you go from 4 to 5? You add 1. So in order to do that, we need to move our decimal point 1 space to the left. So this now becomes 0.16, and then our exponent goes up by 1 to 10 to the 5. Now, when you're here, when you're adding numbers in scientific notation, you add your numbers out front. 8.35 plus 0.16 gets you 8.51. And you keep your exponents the same because they match, times 10 to the 5th. And wouldn't you know, that just matches what we found. You can do it either way. All right, next question. An ant weighs 8.8 times 10 to the negative 6 pounds and can carry objects up to 5,000 times greater than its own body weight. What is the greatest weight in pounds the ant can carry? Express your answer in standard form. So standard form. What does standard form mean? Standard form means with no exponent. So if last time our answer was 8.51 times 10 to the 5th, and our calculator gave us 851,000, your first one is scientific notation, because you have the times 10 to something. Writing it out like you would write out any number is standard form. So we're just going to go right to our calculator for this. Parentheses, 8.8 times 10 to the negative 6. Remember, always put scientific notation numbers in parentheses when you put it in the calculator so that there are no issues with, order of operations messing up or anything like that. Times. It can carry up to 5,000 times its weight. So just times it by 5,000. Ooh, and we get syntax error. Ooh, syntax error. That's new and exciting. All right. So let's see if that fixes it. No. Okay. Well, then we're going to have to do it manually, I suppose. All right, so let's think about what that means. So sometimes the calculator doesn't want to work, which is fine. So we can do this normally. Okay, what does 8.8 times 10 to the negative 6 mean? If you want to convert a number from standard form or from scientific notation to standard form, you use LARS, right? The goal is to get your exponent to 0. So to go from negative 6 to 0, we need to add 6, which means we need to move our decimal point to the left 6 spots. So we're going to go 8.8, and we're going to go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And whatever empty spaces you have, you just put zeros in. Okay? So let's put this into the calculator. 0.000088 times 5,000 equals 0.044 pounds is your answer. So again, we had to talk about converting a number from scientific notation to standard form, which is good practice anyway. So I'm glad we kind of had to do that. I'm going to erase this work over here so that we have the next one. All right. So let's look at our next question. An expression is shown, 2.1 times 10 to the 5th plus 4.3 times 10 to the 4th. All right, let's put that one in to the calculator. Times 10 to the 5th plus 4.3 times 10 to the 4. Whoops, not 40. To the 4. And you get 253,000. So, even if you can't figure out how to put that in the scientific notation, right, you now know that it's not starting with 6.4. So C and D are eliminated. If you can get rid of choices, it makes, if you have to guess, it makes your odds of getting the question right better, right? Because if you have to take a shot in the dark because, oh goodness, I don't remember how to convert a number from standard form to scientific notation, instead of having a 1 and 4, now that we can eliminate 2 choices, it gives us a 1 and 2, doubling our odds. But remember how we convert a number. You put a decimal point next to your leading number, your first number, your first digit. Then you count how many spaces to the right of that digit. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This would be 2.53 times 10 to the 5, which would match B. All right. Last one for this video. Here we go. The density of an object is given by the equation shown. Density equals mass over volume. A scientist has evidence that a newly discovered planet has has a mass of 7.0 times 10 to the 24 kilograms and a volume of 3.5 times 10 to the 12 cubic kilograms. What is the planet's density? So, all you're doing is you're plugging in. Plug and play. Right? Mass. We're told mass is 7.0 times 10 to the 24. Over volume. We're told volume is 3.5 times 10 to the 12. Okay? So let's first do this by putting it into the calculator. 7.0 times 10 to the 24. I said 24. Divided by 3.5 times 10 to the 12. And you get 2.0 times 10 to the 12. And sometimes if there's too many digits that the calculator can't display it, it will just put it in scientific notation for you. So that's easy enough. 2.0 times 10 to the 12. We find a choice. Shabam. Choice B. Done. So that is operations on scientific notation. That's going to wrap up this standard. I will catch you for the next one, and good luck on your state test.